Welcome to Mom's Life Made Simple, the podcast for moms who want to go from chaos to calm, from overwhelmed to organized, and to find balance between family responsibilities and personal growth. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen. Let's make mom life simple. Hello and welcome to the Mom's Life Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and today we are talking about the concept of always learning and how even as moms, when we're not in school anymore, we can keep on learning. One of the things that we do in my coaching group every single week is we talk about the lessons we learned that week. And I find it really interesting that this is hard for people. Most people, as they come to coaching, as they start the process, they really struggle with this one of knowing what to say. And the question is just simple. What did you learn this week? What were some lessons learned this week? So I want to talk about that because I really feel like learning is a lifelong process, and it's something that we should be actively engaged with every day and every week, and how we can really maximize our learning. So one of the ways that we frame it of this lessons learned is it can be learned in a lot of different ways. There are a lot of different ways to grow and to receive learning, and we're going to talk through a few of those today. So one of those is new inputs or information. So when you're thinking about what you're learning, a way to really hone in on making your learning intentional is to intentionally choose a focus. Like, what do you want to learn about? For example, this week, I want to learn about Indian food. I am a huge fan of Indian food. Indian and Thai are probably my two favorite kinds of food. They're just so flavorful and so good. And I decided that I want to learn how to cook Indian at home. I've got a couple recipes that I do here and there, but they're very time consuming. And I want more realistic weeknight meals for Indian food. So I went to the library, got a stack of books. I'm reading about the methods used in Indian cooking, looking at recipes, reading kind of the history of some Indian food, and I'm choosing this focus. When you have a focus, like if you asked me this question at the end of the week, it should be very easy when you said, okay, what do you learn? What did you learn? What were some lessons learned this week? Well, one of the things that I learned were a few new recipes that I can cook from Indian cuisine. So choosing a focus really helps us know where to look. And it doesn't just have to be books. This can be documentaries we're choosing to watch or podcasts we're choosing to listen to. Now, I want to talk about this idea because we live in a day and age when we have so much information at our fingertips, and it's awesome. We can continually keep learning, but then what? If you're learning something new, my question for you is, what are you doing with it? So I can get all these Indian food books from the library. I can read them, I can look at them, but if I never make any food from those cookbooks, it probably isn't going to benefit me very much. So the question is, in all of your learning, what are you implementing? What are you doing? What are you taking action on? So this is in any of the things we're going to talk about today. As you continue to learn new things, you want to make sure that those things are actually becoming a part of you and becoming solidified in the things that you're learning. Number 2, we learn by study and by faith. So I love the idea that anything we want to learn is going to be enhanced if we invite God into it. The Spirit increases our capacity to learn. And I have found this to be really true. I know when I was in high school and college and taking tests and I needed help on any of those tests, I could pray. I could receive divine help and inspiration. And we're taught that the Spirit brings all things to our remembrance. So it can help us to remember the things that we've learned. Another really powerful thing, if we use faith as part of our learning, is that we can discern, we can tell the difference between things that are good for us to learn about and things that are not so good, things that are going to enhance our lives and things that are not. And we can really be choosy in the information that we choose to consume. Number 3 is learning lessons through life. So asking yourself periodically, what is life teaching me? What has happened that I've learned from? How am I going to be better by a certain experience that I've had? And here's what I've noticed. If you're just going through your day-to-day and you're living your life, you are going to have a lot of lessons that you're learning. But if you don't take the time to sit and think and reflect, you won't solidify that learning. You won't recognize or realize all the things that you have learned. So it's not enough to have the experience. We have to take that next step to really recognize the things that we've learned, because it helps us to use that lesson for future experiences. The way that this works best is to have some time without inputs. That goes right along with what we're talking about this month with being more intentional with our screen time. If you have time without your screens, if you have time where you're just able to sit and reflect, you're going to lock in some of what you've learned. I also love to write things down, to journal it out, to write about an experience that I've had and what I've learned from it. Because even if we sit and think, we can still sometimes forget. But if we have a record, we can look back and go, oh yeah, I remember that and I needed that lesson. And sometimes our past self can teach our future self. We're writing those things down for ourselves in the future. So really being aware of what life is teaching us and taking the next step to turn that into a lesson. And going hand in hand with that is number 4, writing. What do you know, but you haven't yet realized? When you write down your thoughts, you will find that you learn so much from just writing down the things in your mind. In the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, she talks about free writing, and she recommends writing 3 pages every morning, just free writing 3 pages of whatever comes. And while I don't do this every day, occasionally I will do free writing, and I find that it's so interesting to see the thoughts that were already there. You can learn from yourself from just seeing what comes on the page. And it's really being aware of the things that you already know, but you haven't yet brought them out. You haven't yet realized you don't know that you know. And writing it down will help you to see that and to know that. Going back to the previous idea of reflection and thinking time, I wanted to make sure to mention a resource, which is a book called The Road Less Stupid. I think it's by Keith Cunningham, where he really recommends this idea of thinking time, of setting aside, blocking out time to think. So there's a couple of resources, The Road Less Stupid and then The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Number 5 is learn from your mistakes. So lessons learned can also be things that we did wrong. When something goes wrong, we can beat ourselves up about it. We can really focus on all the ways it went wrong and all the things that we wanted to turn out differently. Or we can turn that into a situation where we have what I've heard termed as post-traumatic growth, where whatever it is that happened is for our good. It turns into something good because we're seeing the benefit of it. We're seeing the growth. We're seeing the lesson. Often that's going to take a little mental struggle. It's going to take a little work. It's going to take a little learning. It isn't natural for us to mess up, to have something not go our way and to be like, yes, fantastic. That's great. I was hoping it would be like that. Of course not, right? We need to kind of work it out in our mind and say, okay, here's what I learned from that. Another great tool to use in this situation is to say, next time I will. Okay, this time I was really frustrated and angry and I yelled at my kids because I was impatient. Next time I will take a deep breath and speak calmly. Letting yourself learn that lesson is a really powerful way to continue your learning. So we've talked about 5 different ways to increase our learning, to have lessons that we learn every single week. Number 1, have new inputs, new information. Actively go out and seek to learn new things. Number 2, learning by study and by faith, doing what we need to do to connect with God so that we can enhance anything that we're learning. Number 3, being aware of what life is teaching us through meditating and thought. Number 4, writing down our thoughts, working on journaling and writing things down to solidify what we've learned. And number 5, learning from our mistakes. These 5 ways are fantastic ways to keep on learning all the time. I hope that you have learned something new today and that you'll go put it into practice. The final thought that I want to leave you with is that learning is all about implementing. It's not enough to just sit there and let the information kind of wash over you, but never change. The point of learning is growth, is change. So we've talked about some exciting things today, some cool concepts. What are you going to do with it? I would love to hear about it. Let me know how you're implementing this, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to Mom's Life Made Simple. I'm so glad that you're here, and I want you to join us for the 2023 Self-Care Challenge. Each month, we will be diving into a different area of simple self-care, learning how to create habits that allow you to make time for yourself. So to join the challenge, go to chanelnielsen.com/selfcare 2023. When you join, you'll get access to free downloads that help you to create and track your new habits, as well as a link to the community. I'm so excited for you to make self-care part of your year in 2023.